Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is John. I'm a full-time eBay reseller based in Melbourne, Australia. We're going to talk about general questions today.
General questions!
And I know general questions seems like a very vague thing to talk about, but there's a place I want to get to, and I hope we get there. So, when we get general questions on eBay, sometimes you can feel like, why? Like it's right there.
It's right there. It's right there.
And the brain is very quick to say,
Look at the photos. I've taken 12. I've taken 24. Have you read the description?
that's the first thing that we, the seller, sometimes want to say when buyers ask us general questions about our listings. They could be things like, are there any scratches? Is it used? Will it be shipped in a box? I just want to make sure you'll take extra care. Like, what does extra care even mean? Those are questions that feel unnecessary. It feels like, where are you going with this? And I know that because it leads to a sense of discomfort, sometimes sellers can be quick to jump to the conclusion that this is going to be a problem buyer already. If I just ignore it, maybe they'll go away. Maybe they'll find the item elsewhere. And then sometimes they do end up buying and the seller starts freaking out. Oh crap, this is actually going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad. And the seller, without having spoken to the buyer, starts going down this mental rabbit hole of bad, bad, bad. And even if the sale goes well, they feel like they've dodged the bullet. But what if there was never a bullet to begin with? Most of you guys who have been following this channel for a while know that I'm not particularly optimistic. I tend to try and balance things as best I can. The first thing I want to talk about is eBay sellers like to complain that eBay doesn't give them enough photos, descriptions, title, characters, and so forth. That's what general questions are good for, isn't it? If a buyer going to a listing, lazy or genuinely still not convinced, feels that they can ask a question, that's your opportunity to fill in as many gaps as you can. And so when I look at, we used to have 12 photos and then it became 24 photos. There were times when I had to choose which photo I put up because there are some items where if you want to cover the item plus any of the imperfections, 12 photos wasn't enough. Now with 24 we can. And one example with toy cars was, I used to take photos at an angle that I thought, at the angles that I thought was adequate. And then as I learned the category, it became apparent that you can have the best paint job on a toy car, but if the windows have micro scratches on them, the car feels a lot more used than it is. And so by buyers asking me questions like, are there any scratches on the car? I'd follow up and go, I've taken this many photos. What angles can you not see? And they say, oh, I wasn't sure if it's the light or if there are scratches on the mirrors. That's when I learned, right, I need to take photos on certain, like an increased angle so that the micro scratches on the windows are all covered. So with toy cars, I take something like 18 photos now because I don't just take the surrounding shots top and bottom. I actually take the angle shots, 6 of them at the corners, front and back. And what I find is that since I've done that, I've gotten great feedback from buyers that they got what they were purchasing exactly as they saw it. I get less questions as a result as well. But at the same time, the buyer's sentiment towards me when they talk to me comes from a place of, I know you already appreciate what I'm about to buy. It's like trying to talk to someone about a topic of interest to you. You would approach it differently if you knew they already loved the same thing you did, versus if you didn't know if they knew anything about it at all. It's like if I like baking, which I don't, but if I liked baking and I went up to someone and I didn't know if they enjoyed baking, cared for baking or not, my questions would be quite vague, like, what do you do on the weekend? Do you like making food? I tried this really cool croissant the other day. Have you tried making your own? There's a process to get to the topic. But if I know you like baking, I'll be like, hey, I saw this really cool recipe. It's straight to the point, and we're of the same mind already. And it gets rid of all that unknown. We talked about at the beginning. where a buyer asks a question because they're building up a process. There's a process to get to the thing that they really want, but they don't know where to start because they don't know whether you know what they're talking about. So like that buyer who went, are there any scratches? But really they wanted to know about windscreens, mirrors, windows. They did not know that I cared enough about the item to ask that specific question. But now that I take this many photos and I have a great track record selling toy cars, the questions that I get are like here already. There is no ambiguity. There's no sense of, I wonder if it's going to be a bad buyer or not, because all that's gone. So that's the first thing. Allowing buyers' questions to be an opportunity to fill in the gaps where the platform's features may not allow you enough chances to do that. Number of photos, titles in the, like characters in the titles and so forth. The point being is, see it as an opportunity. The next thing is, oftentimes when you get general questions, it's also because you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know enough, or you're not conveying that, which also tends to be because you're small, or you're new to a category. You may be a very seasoned seller, but still be new to a new category. And most of us, when we pivot, we don't understand, like I've got 4 toy accounts. Every time I go into a new toy account, I don't assume I'm an expert toy seller. I know that there are nuances, there's a depth that I need to get to with that new category. And whenever I start a new category, even though I'm busier every time I do it because I've gone from 1 store to 2 to 3 to 4, I cannot treat that 4th store like I don't have time for it. I have to give it the time, as if I am a small seller starting out selling toys in that category for the very first time. And what happens is, it sets me up to treat my buyers with care. And most of you who are starting out, if you are new to a category and if you are new to selling, please recognize that that is time well spent. eBay as a platform doesn't provide us much feedback from the buyer. It provides us data, historical data, when we, when we look at sales history, when we look at all the photos that were used in the listings in that sales history, but it doesn't actually tell us how the buyer feels. Feedback is already something that we know doesn't happen for every buyer. Not everybody leaves feedback. And so what better way to get an understanding of the buyer that you wish to continue to sell to long term? And long term is the key here. If you're selling a one-off item, whatever, do whatever you want. But if you're planning on being in a category because you reckon there's a long-term prospect there that can feed your family day and day and day and day, see it as an opportunity to get to know your buyer. Because eBay doesn't give you that feedback. Facebook, on the other hand, if you sell on Instagram, if you sell on Facebook, Instagram, if you sell on those platforms where they're like comment sections, you'll get the feedback. Scalper, overpriced, this is a bargain, oh my gosh, how did you get that? That kind of feedback doesn't exist on eBay. And so when a buyer is willing to talk to you, see it as an opportunity to get to know your buyer. Some of you need to worship your items less. And I mean that I've seen this quite often. I know what I got. And if you want it, you can buy. If you don't want it, then whatever. You're not my buyer. Pretty arrogant, isn't it? Like the I know what I got mentality. Not everybody who wants your item or needs your item knows exactly what your item is. Oftentimes, an item can meet a variety of uses, and that brings with it a variety of people. I could be an action figure seller, and somebody may want something that looks robotic, purple, to fit a particular diorama they're building. They could have no care or respect for the item, but it could fit their use case that I do not expect to be a use case typically. And they may have the budget to pay my collector's price. They could have a space to fill up that requires something that's 14 inches tall. I don't know what it might be. And if they ask me questions and I start behaving like it's a BAF Sentinel, it is what it is. If you don't want to pay it, don't pay it. If you want to ask so many questions, then piss off. If I have that attitude that my items are so amazing, people should know what they are, it sets me up to firstly lose potential buyers. And here's the thing, right? I may have a target buyer in mind, but if my not target buyer happens to buy the item, I still get paid earlier. It's a benefit to me. If they're paying the asking price, but there's a process to know if it fits their case, their use case, one that may seem a bit weird to me, but if it fits the use case and they pay, that's still a deal. So it starts by not worshipping our items like as if I found it, it's a treasure, people should know what it is. And that's an attitude that most people don't admit they have, but it does creep up, especially when they find, those bolo, like be on the lookout items, like the rare item within their category. That behavior kind of, the little gremlin starts to creep out. So be mindful of that, keep that in check. And most importantly, treating buyers like they are suspicious has never helped any business. Except businesses that are supposed to protect people from things. In retail, let's go with retail. In retail, treating buyers like they're all out to get us is never helpful. I always like to go back to the cafe example because it's hospitality is expected, an open door is expected, service is expected. Those are the beyond the items. Because you go to any cafe for coffee, you go to any cafe for cake, sandwiches. Those are commodities. Like you can only fancy up a sandwich so much. And reselling kind of is like that to me. Anyone can go out and source an action figure, a basketball, a Lego head, a bunch of books. The same way how anybody can open up a shop and start making sandwiches. You don't really need to go to culinary school to do that. So a cafe to me is quite a good comparison. The thing that differentiates one cafe from the other is the openness of the owner and whether that openness translates to the staff that touch the customers as they come in. And so if you go to any cafe where the owners are suspicious of everyone that comes in, are they going to pay? Are they going to dine and dash? Are they going to make a mess? Or those children better not make a noise? Is that table going to mess with the other table? If that's the attitude and that's the primary focus of that cafe will stay empty for the most part. So do yourself a favor and see general questions as an opportunity to get to know your buyer. See it as a chance to actually just talk to your buyer. See it as a chance to engage in, and here's the thing, even if you signed up for eBay because you don't like that interaction face-to-face, guess what? Messages from buyers are remote. So just treat every question with an open mind, take it on face value, and what you'll come to find is, as you answer those general questions, there will be questions that go deeper and deeper and deeper, helping you understand your product, helping you understand what good buyers look like, so that when those questions come, you know where it's already going. Because that's the fear, isn't it? We don't know where those general questions are going to go, and it leads to a sense of fear that it might go wrong. There may not be a bullet. Learn to figure out if there is a bullet by following the question to the next step, which is, are they asking me to take the sale off eBay? Are they asking me to do a lot more work only to then lowball me? Are they trying to set me up for that? Or are they genuinely wanting to know more about the product, whether it will fit their needs, and so forth? There's an example that Jason, one of the resellers within the Facebook group, also a friend, he actually said there was someone in Canada, I think it was, who messaged asking for the dimensions of the DVD case that he was of the DVD that he was selling, which is an odd thing to ask, because you would just assume that every DVD case is the same dimensions. And the guy went, oh, it's because I have very limited display space, so it needs to be able to fit. And Jason answered the question as a matter of fact, and as a result, ended up with that sale plus, I think, $100 more, all shipped to Canada. So people have weird questions because people have very personalized needs. Recognizing that every customer, recognizing that with reselling, because we sell so many products that are no longer actively marketed, a lot of those items can be used for different things. I was trying to think, Lego head used as a stand for eBay basketball. There you go. Not its intended purpose, but I could easily ask someone, hey, what are the dimensions of the hole at the top, so that whether it's big enough to hold the basketball, right? And I think that's just it. Like, embrace your customers with an open mind. The other thing was, I remember selling some motorized cars, and I didn't realize that different wheels had different speeds. And someone was asking me, is this the one that goes faster on the track? And I was like, How am I supposed to know? I don't in my head, I don't test these things on different track. And then after that, I said, what do you mean by faster? He goes, oh, because the wheels are different. And I went, oh. You see, as far as I was concerned, I thought that with cars, you had rubber wheels, and then you had like plastic wheels. Apparently, there's different plastic wheels that go at different speeds. No clue. They just look like plastic wheels to me. But then now I know. So, yeah. Respect the general questions, see it as an opportunity, and you'll go far. Until next video, happy reselling. Bye!